Hi guys, this is Wireheadking, and today I'm going to teach you how to animate grass in Blender 2.6. Now what you're seeing here is a simple and kind of undetailed reconstruction of what I made in the, or what we made in the tutorial series that I made, which was the creating grass. But today I'm going to tell you how to animate that grass, but in the scene that you just saw it's kind of different to the scene here, and I thought that I'm just going to reconstruct this scene here to show the tutorial. The reason why I couldn't just load it up is because it's on my old computer, because I've got new ones since I made that tutorial, and I don't want to have to, reload up all the files and stuff. And generally I think that render was, in my opinion, didn't quite look right. Is strange. Anyway, let's get on with the tutorial. So you'll notice here that I haven't actually got many particles showing up, so if I just reset this, because I've already tried to record this tutorial but failed miserably. Right, yeah, so as you can see we've got all these particles here. We could increase the display up to 100 and you should see all the particles, but we need to optimize this as much as we can, so we're going to set this to 1 and set this to 1. And if you want you can even lower this number here temporarily, but that's going to kind of extremes. Okay, so the way this works, now what you're probably thinking I'm going to do, those of you who know parts of Blender, you're going to think I'm going to add a force field which is wind, because this is wind that we're making in Blender. And you'll see that if I just put it around and rotate it and whatever, you'll see that the grass is just completely flat now because it's just getting completely blown down. So I think, okay, that's simple too. So we'll just bring strength down to 0.1. However, that doesn't really work because, well, it makes it less steep, not less steep, less flat. But it doesn't work because there's no actual movement. It's just this one force just blowing the grass over to one side, and that doesn't really work. So instead, what we're going to do is add a force field texture, and that way we're going to use textures using the coordinates of this empty that's been made to create the the sort of movement of the grass while keeping it looking like it's a breeze, because that's just how it works. So it's a very nice effect, and I think it works very well to create grass animation. So what we're going to do is, here it's asking for a texture. Now I've already made one, but I'm going to need to remake it now to give you the right settings. There's no correct settings, it really depends, but these are just my personal preferences. If I just make a new texture, I'm going to call it wind texture. It's probably not going to allow that. See that? Just going to need to delete that 001 and then it will allow it. There we go, because I've already made it. And we're going to change the type from clouds to marble, and what that would do is make this strange sort of thing. I don't know why they call it marble. It just makes this texture, but it works quite well when it comes to creating breezes. Now I'm going to set the size to 1 just to increase that, and increase the depth to 4. Yeah, 4. And then you just get some bits of fine detail on it. And we'll set the turbulence up to 8. And that might be a bit too high actually, 7. Yeah, there we go. And I think, yeah, that's about it really for the texture. Now with the force field, we're going to load up that texture, and you'll see that all the grass has now just been blown over again. So I'm going to set the strength to 0.05 like that. Oh, that's still kind of high, isn't it? 0.01. And that way, you can see that it's just applying a very gentle force to the particles. However, if I move this around, nothing is happening. And that's why I need to tick use coordinates and root texture coordinates. So this one here is specifically for grass particles, and you see now when I move it, the grass is moving with it, and the faster I move it, the faster the grass moves. And the slower I move it, the slower the grass moves. All that stuff. Rotation, that messes things up, just goes crazy. And same with scale. You don't want to play around the scale of the rotation, just the location. So, how do we get this to be an animation? Is what you're, well, I don't think you're thinking that. You probably know what I'm going to do next, and you probably already closed the tutorial to do it yourself, but I need to cover it anyway, because otherwise that'd just be pointless. So, what I'm going to do is, well, it can stay there for now, but I'm just going to go to the beginning of my animation. A quick shortcut to do that is shift left arrow, that will just take you right to the beginning. Shift right arrow takes you to the end, and up or down takes away 10 frames. That's just a quick navigation around the timeline. Now, with the force selected, we're going to press I and choose location. And if any of you have seen my iPro editing tutorial, please don't look at that, that's just humiliating. But, you know, go ahead and watch that if you don't know what I'm doing. I'm just applying some simple keyframes to the empty. Now if I go to the end of the animation, again, that's shift right arrow, and then move it a bit, just, you know, to a point that looks nice, so somewhere around there. You know, by the way, with the 3D viewport, don't take that as your final, you know, don't, basically, the 3D viewport just doesn't calculate force fields correctly, and, well, with textures anyway, it just, you see when I move this around, it just, you know, even if I move it in the same direction, it just does some weird things that don't really happen. But, so, you know, that's just not how it works. So, now, if I just hide the mesh, just to give you an idea, you'll see that the empty, at first, oh, it's still calculating the particles, so let's just bring it back. Yeah, you'll see that at first, it goes slowly, then it speeds up, and then it goes slowly again. And, you know, it's not barely moving at all, so you're probably just wondering what on earth I'm on about. But if we open up this window here, and set this to the graph editor, which is there, you'll see that we've got these things happening. And if I just fiddle around with this, there we go. These are the motion curves, and what this is basically saying, where the steeper areas are is where it moves more, and the less steep areas, the shallower, no, that's not quite the word, but the areas that have less of an incline, that's where it moves slower. And for some reason Blender, I don't know, it's like a practical joke or something, but it sets it at this nice smooth curve, which is known as a Bezier curve, and I very rarely find a usage for this, because it just messes up loads of animations, and when you see things that just don't look right, it's often down to the fact people haven't changed this. Now what we want is, because we just want this to move from there to there, don't know if you saw that, but I just went to the keyframes. But yeah, if you just want it to move there to there, you know, that's just what we want. We don't want any of this fancy, starts off slowly and then goes fast and then stops slowly. That's not what we want. So what we're going to do is, with all of these selected, you can do that by just pressing A. We're going to press V and choose vector, and that way everything is now one straight line. So anywhere in the animation, this force field is moving at exactly the same speed as it is any other time, and that's exactly what we want. So now that's essentially it. You're going to want to play around though, because you don't need these curve editors anymore, they're already set up. But yeah, you're going to want to play around, because I find that sometimes I need to move the force field quite a bit of distance across the plane, and sometimes I find that I don't need to move it at all, like, you know, very small amounts. That's probably a bit too much what I've moved there for this scene, I don't know. But as I say, the 3D viewport is a terrible visual representation, and you shouldn't look at it at all and rely on it, because it's just terrible. So the only way you can really test this out is to render it. Now what I usually do is I just render the first 10 frames and see how that looks. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to pause this video, render 10 frames, and come back. Alright then, so I have rendered the field, 10 frames of it anyway, and yeah, now if you haven't seen my how to render an animation tutorial, then you won't know what I'm doing here. But to keep things simple, I've rendered this out as a bunch of PNG images, and if I just load up the properties here, and that way I can load it up as an image sequence. Now this is just a very what's the word? What's that stupid word that artists use to insult people? Primitive. That's it. It's just a very primitive animation, 10 frames. I forgot to put them in actual locations, so they're just sitting there. I'm going to add them in and just put them up at the beginning like that, and we'll set the end frame to 10, and now I can get to see in small detail what my field is going to look like. So maybe I should have rendered a few more frames, but you can get the general idea of if it's going too fast or not, and really just have to focus on a particular area. Like the grass here is kind of, well, entertaining, I suppose, but yeah. And you will find that there's sort of these nice streaks going through things, but if you look at my final scene and you look carefully, you'll notice those streaks are there anyway. It's just because we've rendered this to 10 frames, so they haven't really moved. But yes, but generally that's, if anything, going a bit too fast, so you might want to just lower the location thing, the speed of it. So if I just press Shift Control O and load up this, yeah, we can now get our empty, and where the heck is it? There it is, and set the end to 250, and okay, let's see, so it starts there and ends at, that's a tiny amount of movement. Alright, let's have it start right here. So, oh hang on, not the beginning, so okay, let's have it start here, that way I know where it starts. So just there, and then at the end frame it's just going to be moved just very slightly, so to about there. So that is almost no movement at all, but you're going to find that it works nicely. And you can fiddle around with that. I'm not going to repeatedly render that loads and loads until I get it right, because that's just pointless. But just keep rendering, maybe 20 frame segments rather than 10. It depends how long it takes for you to render. I only chose 10 because in my this example scene that was at the beginning that I keep referring to, with that, it had 6 million particles, and it took about 2 minutes per frame, so you had to wait 20 minutes just to get a rough look at how many particles, at the speed. So I didn't want to spend any more than that. It was just unnecessary. So yeah, and yep, that basically concludes the tutorial. There's nothing much else to say. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you want to. That's only if you liked it, because, yeah. And also, don't forget to subscribe, because I've got loads more interesting tutorials. And if you want to know how I made this grass, you can check out my grass creation series. All these links will be in the description. And I hope you enjoy animating your grass, so thanks for watching, and goodbye.